Welcome back to the course of this micro engineering and very good morning to all. Today we will devote our session for studying the very first type of crossed field tube which is there in our syllabus, that is the magnetron. And especially we are going to see the typical type of magnetron as a cylindrical magnetron. So if you remember, so the microtubes which are mainly utilized for the two different purposes. One basically is for the generation of the microwaves, and second is the amplification of the microwave signal. So for these two distinct reasons, the microtubes are very popularly utilized. So the microtubes which we saw in our earlier lectures, all those are belonging to the type of linear beam tube, in which a linear beam of electron is utilized for the purpose of generating the microwaves, or it can be also used as a amplifying mechanism of the microwaves. So all already studied microwave tubes, including your two cavity klystron, reflect klystron, traveling wave tube amplifier, all these tubes are belonging to the category known as linear beam tubes. Now from here we will be starting with another category of microwave tubes, where two separate fields, electric field and magnetic field, both we are going to make use of, and these two fields are oriented perpendicular to each other. If you recall, when we started discussion on this third module, we classified the microtubes into main two categories. The first category is linear beam tubes, which makes use of linear beam of electron for their processing or operation. And the second type is crossed field tubes, in which we are going to make use of both fields, electric field as well as magnetic field, and these fields are perpendicularly oriented with each other. So a very first type of a tube which makes use of this configuration of two perpendicularly oriented fields is the magnetron. So magnetron tube is actually utilized as a oscillator circuit, and the magnetron tube can produce a very high frequency and also at a very high power level. Okay, so let us go to the details of how this particular magnetron look likes. So the magnetron tube that we are going to study in our syllabus is a cylindrical magnetron. Though some specialized other configurations of magnetrons are available, in our syllabus we are going to discuss in detail the cylindrical magnetron tube, which is basically utilized as a microwave generator or microwave oscillator. So let us have the details of this construction. So on the left hand side over here, whatever diagram we see over here, this diagram is a commercially available magnetron, please remember. Okay, so how a commercially available magnetron look like, which is used in industrial application to generate the microwaves at a high frequency and at a high power, right? So it consists of a tube like structure which is cylindrical in nature, having certain cavities. Okay, so the magnetron is a high powered vacuum tube which works on the basis of self excited microwaves. Okay, so as we saw in the case of a reflect klystron tube, in order to initially set up an oscillation, a momentarily microwave signal is introduced into the single cavity. So likewise, in the magnetron, it is also required to set up certain initial oscillation. Okay, and these oscillations, when they are set up, the structure of the magnetron is made in a such a way that the oscillations will be maintained and a high frequency will be generated. So here the important thing is the electric and magnetic fields are used which are perpendicularly oriented, and therefore this tube is known as cross field tubes. Okay, so this is the main reason why the magnetron or cylindrical magnetron is known as a crossed field tube. So a crossed field tube means we are going to make use of both fields, electric field as well as magnetic field, and these are oriented perpendicular to each other. Now we will see why this type of orientation of field is required, right? So the another type of a magnetron is split into multiple resonant cavities. So this is a very common configuration that is we are utilizing at the laboratory, and with a centrally spaced cathode at the cylinder. The open source between the anode and cathode is called as an interaction space. Okay, so this particular cavity based multi resonant magnetron structure is shown over here in this second figure. Okay, so the cavities can be made with a different shapes. So for example, here in first way, the cavity is made in the form of small slots which are drilled into the metallic surface. Okay, and these slots we call it as a cavities. So these slot can be made with a different types of configuration. Okay, so when we increase the size of a slot, we will call those slot as a vein type, and this is shown over here in figure B, right? And a third and very important type of cavities that are made on the outer periphery of this cylindrical body, that is a rising sun type of a cavities over here. Okay, so this rising sun type of a cavities are given over here. So here the rising sun, the name, cavities are made in the direction or in the shape of how the sun look like while it's rising position, in this way, right? So all these are cavities. Okay, so that's why the cavity shape of the cavities look like that the sun is rising. So that's why this particular shape we call it as a rising sun type of a configuration for the slots, right? Now we go ahead. Now here if we visualize this particular structure, that is a structure of cavity which is specifically utilized in most of the application, that is hole and slot type. Okay, so this is a particular, the entire cylindrical body over here is acting as an anode. Okay, and at the middle position of this cylindrical anode we are going to place a cathode. So cathode is placed over here, please remember. So the cathode is actually placed at the center. Okay, so when this cathode is heated up, okay, with a electric field, DC electric field, the electrons will get emitted from this cathode. Now the electron, as the anode is connected to the positive potential, these electron will tend to approach towards the anode, right? So the space between the cathode and anode we call it as an interaction space. Okay, so in this particular space the electric and magnetic fields are going to interact. Now please remember over here that the magnetic field is shown perpendicularly oriented in the plane of this particular paper. So that means here the magnetic field, so this is a magnetic field. Okay, so rather I will write it as H, indicating it is a magnetic field. So the magnetic field is actually oriented perpendicular to the direction of cathode. Okay, and the electric field is oriented parallel in the plane of paper. So the electric field is oriented in a parallel in the plane of paper. The magnetic field is oriented perpendicular in the plane of paper. So that means electric field and magnetic fields are oriented totally perpendicular to each other, right? So in this space the electric and magnetic fields, they are going to interact to the electrons released by the cathode. So this interaction will exert a force on the electron which is emitted by the cathode. The strong magnetic field which is oriented perpendicularly is going to provide an effect of permanent magnet, right? So the anode is splitted into the number of separate microwave cavities which we discuss right now. Okay, so actually anode is not a single anode over here, but the anode is constructed in the form of a multiple cavities in the form of a cylindrical configuration, right? So the magnetron has its anode which is split up into the multiple, and they are arranged in a radial fashion over here. So here this particular sentence, so the cavities could take form of either slot, vein, okay, or either of a rising sun type or hole or slot type. So those are discussed over here. So the cavities of the anode can take any particular configuration. Rising sun type and hole and slot type are the most commonly used types of anode splitting. Now let us see how this magnetron tube operates and how it is going to provide us continuous source of microwave oscillation. Okay, the operation of the magnetron as a microwave oscillator, it is operated in four distinct phases. So there are four different phases of operation of the magnetron in order to produce the microwave oscillation. Okay, so in the first phase, here we will discuss the first phase. In the first phase, the generation and acceleration of an electron beam in the DC field will be carried out. Okay, so here our aim is to generate a continuous high frequency microwave source from this magnetron tube, and this entire operation is carried out into four different stages or steps. The very first step is generation and acceleration of an electron beam by using a DC field. Okay, so we already know how to generate a source of an electron. We should have a cathode, and when that cathode is supplied with a negative potential, large potential, the cathode will get heated up and the cathode will then start emitting electrons, and thus we will get a source of an electron. So in order to generate an electron beam or electrons, we need a strong electric DC potential. Okay, so let us say here what your structure in the phase 1, which is shown over here on my left hand side diagram. So this outer body of the magnetron is nothing but the anode, right? So this anode is not a single plate or a single electrode, but it consists of multiple cavities in this way. Okay, so this anode consists of multiple cavities in this particular way, and these cavities are splitted into the form of circles. Okay, and these are going to form a ring. Okay, and at the center we have a cathode over here. The cathode is placed at the center. So in between anode and cathode, what we are going to do is we are going to set up an electric field. So how the electric field can be set up? So it can be shown like this. So the anode is connected at a positive potential, right? And the cathode is connected to the negative potential in this way. So this is positive and this is negative, and this is a DC electric field. This is electric field. So I hope you understood the arrangement of electric field between the anode and cathode. Cathode is connected to the negative potential so that it will get heated up and it will start emitting electrons. Okay, and here the magnetic field, which is oriented perpendicular to the plane of the paper. So here I will show the magnetic field. The magnetic field is oriented such that I will just show the symbolic representation of the magnetic field, that is H. The magnetic field is supposed to be present in the plane vertical to this plane of the cylindrical magnetron cross section. Okay, so actually we assume that this magnetic field is perpendicular to the plane of paper, right? So that means electric field is there parallel in the plane of paper. Magnetic field is oriented perpendicular into the plane of the paper. Okay, so first step is we will start getting the electrons by applying the DC electric field between anode and cathode, right? Now let us see what will happen into the second phase or the second step. As the presence of electric field will generate the electron beam. In the second phase, the velocity modulation of the electron beam will be carried out in the microwave AC field, which was initially launched as an arbitrary noise signal in the cavities. So what we do in the second step we call it as a velocity modulation process is activated. So how it will be activated? by momentarily introducing some small microwave signal, or even the small microwave signal is not at all required. The noise which is inherently present in the cavity formed between splitted anode and cathode of this cylindrical cross section will itself set up as a signal, and this signal is going to cause the velocity modulation process of the released electron from the cathode. Okay, so the velocity modulation process will start in the second step. Please remember, over here we are not applying external explicitly a microwave signal in order to cause the effect of velocity modulation of the released electron by the cathode, but rather in the cylindrical cavity itself, the noise signal itself is going to trigger out the mechanism action of the velocity modulation. Okay, so the velocity modulation means the electrons are getting continuously released by the cathode, and these electrons will get interacted with the presence of the noise signal. When the noise signal is maximum positive, the electrons will get accelerated, and when the noise signal is minimum, the electrons will get deaccelerated. So velocity modulation is going to start in between a space which is formed between anode and cathode, and this particular scenario will look like as shown in figure number 2. So what will happen is, we normally have even number of cavities over here, right? So these cavity I will call the cavities of the cathode, cavities of the anode, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 and 12. So this is a 12 splitted anode configuration, and the number of cavities are always even, right? So when the velocity modulation process begins, the cavities will be alternatively changing their phase. For example, if you see cavity number 1 with cavity number 2 over here, now we see that the phase of these cavity during the velocity modulation process is opposite. So likewise, the phase of cavity number 3 is opposite to that of 2, and 4 is opposite as that of number 3, and so on. Okay, so in the second phase of the magnetron oscillator, the velocity modulation is set up in the cavity, right? Now please remember, over here the magnetic field is also acting simultaneously. So the released electron by the cathode over here, so this is a cathode, and when this cathode emits electrons, okay, so these electrons will get acted upon by the two forces. The force which is there in between anode and cathode because of the electric field. Now because of the electric field, these electrons will tend to travel in a straight line direction towards the anode, right? As the anode is connected to the positive potential, when the electrons get released, they will start traveling towards the anode in a linear direction. But please remember, there is also presence of the magnetic field which is acting to this motion of electron in a perpendicular direction from the vertical. So from here there is a presence of magnetic field. So what will happen to the motion of electron when it is simultaneously acted upon by electric field as well as a magnetic field, right? So this particular situation I will show over here. Let us say this is an electron. Okay, so when the electron is released by the cathode, the electron will start traveling towards the anode in a linear direction, right? Now this direction of the traveling of the electron is in the space between cathode and anode, right? So when this field is attracting the electron towards the anode, simultaneously the magnetic field is also acting over it. So this magnetic field I will denote like this. The magnetic field is perpendicular and it is going inside to the plane of the paper. So what will happen to this particular electron, which I have shown with a red color over here, when it is being acted upon the two fields? One field is a linear, okay, and another magnetic field is a vertical. Now these two fields are oriented perpendicular to each other. So that means electric field perpendicular to magnetic field. If the two fields are oriented perpendicular to each other, then how these two fields are going to affect to the motion of electron? Now, in the absence of magnetic field which is vertical, the electron will straight away move towards the anode and it will get absorbed by the anode. But please remember over here we have the presence of magnetic field also. So here the motion of the electron will not remain linear. So what will happen to the electron is, suppose this is a particular electron, I will show. So this is the particular electron, right? In the absence of magnetic field, it was traveling linearly into the direction of anode. Let us say there is a cathode over here. When the cathode releases this particular electron, this electron start traveling towards the anode linearly. Now in the presence of magnetic field, right? So in the presence of magnetic field over here, which is perpendicularly oriented in this way, the motion of the electron will not remain linear, but what will happen is, because of the presence of magnetic field, the electron path of traveling will get bent. Okay, so what I'm saying, the electron path will get bent in this particular way. So instead of reaching to the anode, what will happen is the path of the traveling of the electron will be curved. So the electron will start traveling in a curved path rather than a straight line path. So in this way. So for example, the electrons will move in this way when they are getting released from the cathode. So what happens actually is the straight line traveling path of the electrons will be bent because of this perpendicularly oriented magnetic field, and the straight line path traveling of the electron will become a curved path, right? So that's why here you observe in the second stage, when the electrons are getting released, the electrons will never reach to the anode, but the electrons will start oscillating in between the space cathode and anode because of this perpendicular field oriented of the magnetic field, right? So here in the second step, the velocity modulation process will take place. Now in the third process, or in the third stage, the formation of the electron bunches will take place. They are allowed with the process of velocity modulation. Already the velocity modulation process is started in the second stage, and in the third stage we will allow the electron to form a bunch. And when the electrons will form a bunch, the energy from these electron bunches will be dispensed to this microwave signal which is set up in the cavity. Remember here that we are not introducing any earlier prior microwave signal. The microwave signal will set up by its own, beginning with a noise-like appearance, and this will grow and it will get continuously sustained in the circuit, right? So the electron moving in the influence of crossed electric and magnetic field, it will get accelerated during the positive cycle of the microwave signal. So when here the term microwave signal means the noise signal, please remember. So when the noise signal is having the positive magnitude, the electron under the presence of crossed magnetic and electric field will get accelerated, and the same electron will get retarded when the negative cycle of the microwave or the noise signal appears. Hence, the electron is going to spend the energy to the each cavity as it passes, and finally, eventually it reaches the anode where its energy is totally extended. Therefore, the electron has helped to sustain the oscillation because it has taken the energy from the DC field and given it to the growing micro signal. So how we are going to generate a micro signal? Micro signal is not present initially. Initially, the noise signal which is inherently present in the cavity will be sustained and will be grown by taking the energy from electrons. Okay, so in order to extract the energy from the electrons, we need to process there, we need to achieve there a velocity modulation, right? So in velocity modulation, we need a source of electron. So that source of electron will be provided by heating the cathode. So when the cathode will start emitting electrons, these electrons are affected by the presence of noise like signal in the cavity, and these electrons are simultaneously affected by the perpendicularly oriented magnetic field. So what will happen, because of all this process, the bunching of released electrons from the cathode will take place in the cavity, and these bunched electrons are then going to exert, or they are going to give up their energy to this noise like appeared signal, and this noise like appearing signal will become amplified, and it will become as a sustained microwave oscillation in the circuit. And when we take it out from the circuit, we will find that it is a continuously high frequency microwave signal at the output of cavity. So the operation of the frequency. Now what frequency this microwave magnetron tube has generated, it depends upon the size of the cavity and the interaction space between the anode and cathode. Okay, so single cavities are coupled over the interaction space with each other. Therefore, what we design is we will make use of such a several cavities, and all these cavities, please remember, they possess a property of resonance. So all these cavities are resonant frequencies, and they are resonant for existing the completely behavioral aspect of the resonance phenomena. Okay, so here in the following particular figure, the operation of the magnetron is explained. Okay, so normally we'll take even number of cavities on the left hand side the diagram. As the resonant cavities of the anode are in the form of a cavity, so normally we take even number of such cavities in order to sustain the oscillations produced in the operation. Okay, so in the figure 12 cavities are utilized, but it doesn't make any difference how much number of cavities we are going to make use of. But remember that we normally take even number of cavities in order to get sustained oscillation. But magnetron is normally operated in the pi mode. Now what is this pi mode? We'll see later on. This pi mode operation of the magnetron will allow us to get the higher output power level, and thus whenever magnetron is operated, it is operated in its pi mode. Okay, so when the magnetron operates in other mode which is other than pi mode, okay, so this pi mode operation of the magnetron we will see later on. But here we will note that when the magnetron operates in other mode which is other than from pi mode, so what we expect that time is we will get lower amount of power and lower amount of efficiency, and the oscillatory frequency which is produced by the magnetron is not sustained, but rather it will start decreasing. Okay, so sustained oscillations are difficult to get whenever the magnetron is operating in a particular mode which is other than pi mode operation. Okay, so therefore in order to ensure stable generated frequencies or stable microwave frequency, it is made sure that the magnetron should always operate in its pi mode. Okay, so in order to facilitate the magnetron to operate in the pi mode, a special process we are going to allow, and that process we call it as a strapping process. Okay, so the strapping will always allow the magnetron to be operated in the pi mode. And why we want the magnetron to operate in the pi mode? Because in the pi mode, whatever the energy generated by the microwave magnetron, that is sustained and it is continuous and it is maximum, right? So the frequency of the pi mode, which can be separated from the frequencies of other mode. In order to ensure the separation, a process we call it as a strapping. Okay, so this process of strapping is indicated over here, right? So strapping means we are going to connect the alternate cavities with a short circuit configuration. So here it is denoted. So this particular cavity is short circuited over here, and similarly alternate cavities, you can leave one cavity and you can take other cavities in this way. There are two heavy metallic rings with which the cavities are short circuited alternatively in this way. Okay, so there are two rings if you observe over here. The outer ring, so here I will write ring 1. I will change the color. Okay, so here I will draw. So there are two rings shown over here, ring 1, okay, and the inner ring 2. These rings are connected alternatively to the cavities. For example, ring 1 is connected over here, ring 2 is connected over here. Okay, so similarly ring 3, cavity 3. So here I should name the cavities also. Okay, so let us call the cavities as this is a cavity number 1. So this is a cavity number 1, cavity number 2, cavity number 3, 4, 5, whichever I am written in yellow color, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. There are such a even number of cavities. Total 12 cavities are there, and these cavities are connected by a heavy metallic wire short circuited alternately, okay, with the help of a ring like structure. So here if you observe, cavity number 1 is short circuited over here, cavity number 2 is short circuited at second ring. Similarly cavity number 3 will get short circuited over here with the first ring, cavity number 4 is short circuited at the second ring, then 5th at the first, 6th at the second, 7th again at the first, 8 is short circuited to the second ring, 9 is short circuited to the first ring, and 10 to the second, 11 to the first, and 12 again to the second ring. So alternatingly short circuiting the cavities to the heavy metallic ring, we call this particular process as a strapping. Now why we do this strapping process? This strapping process will ensure that when the magnetron starts working, it will always operate in a pi mode. And we already know that why we want to operate the magnetron in the pi mode, because when it operates in the pi mode, the observed energy, the output is maximum, and whatever microwave frequency we will get at the output of magnetron, which will be continuously sustained, right? So the pi mode operation can be ensured by making the use of a process called as a strapping. Okay, so a strapping, what we do is the ring we are going to make use of, and these two rings are alternatively connected to the cavities. Okay, alternate opposing potential are getting lowered. So the other modes, so when we perform this particular operation of strapping of the alternate cavities, what will happen is, as on when the other modes are going to get generated in the magnetron, the phase difference between the cavities are going to cancel to the each other, so that when the other mode tend to get generated, it will get cancelled because of the opposing phases in the cavity, and thus it will be ensured that the other mode other than pi mode will not get generated, right? So we'll see in brief what are the different applications of a magnetron. Magnetrons are especially used in a high power radar transmitter, and they can be utilized for peak pulse power operation from 10 kilowatts to up to 3 megawatts level. So here the magnetron are sufficiently high in order to sustain the high level of power at a high microwave frequency operation. The domestic type of magnetrons are also popularly utilized in our kitchen application in microwave ovens. Specialized industrial heating application, they will make use of the magnetrons. Voltage tunable magnetrons are used in a sweep oscillators in telemetry and missile applications. Okay, so the next process or the construction of the magnetron is shown over here. Okay, so this is the actual diagram of how the magnetron is actually going to look like. Okay, so here I will show you these parts. So this, the outer cylindrical part, we call it as a splitted anodes. Splitted anodes, and these anodes are splitted by forming the cavities inside the anode. Okay, and at the center we have the cathode. So this is the cathode. In between a space which is there between cathode and anode, we call it as the interaction region. So this particular region, the gap, we call it as the interaction region. Okay, so when we set up the velocity modulation process inside this interaction region, essentially this particular cavity acts as LC resonant circuit. The part of the cavity is shown over here. So when we separate out one single cavity of this splitted anode, it will look like as it is shown in the second figure. So essentially it acts as a LC tuned circuit, right? So whenever the velocity modulation process will take place inside the cavity region, the electrons are going to give up their energy to the sustained field, which is originally a noise like signal, which will later grown up and it will get converted into a sustained micro signal. And that micro signal we can take out from here, from the cavity, and when we take this micro signal, we'll find it is a sustained, continuously fluctuating a high frequency source, which we normally call it as a microwave signal, right? So here we saw that the operation of this magnetron tube is completely based on two separate fields, electric field and magnetic field, which are oriented perpendicular to each other. Now here, remember that if we apply the electric field and if we apply the magnetic field, at that time continuously the velocity modulation process will not get initiated. We need certain specific value of either magnetic field or electric field in order to initiate a process of velocity modulation inside the given magnetron tube. Okay, so here please remember that when we apply simply a electric potential between anode and cathode, and when we apply a steady magnetic field which is oriented perpendicular to this electric field, automatically the velocity modulation process will not happen, because we need to find a condition for either a applied magnetic field or electric field which will initiate a process of velocity modulation inside this magnetron tube. Okay, so this particular condition at which either by using a magnetic field or by using an electric field, velocity modulation process is initiated inside a magnetron, it can be determined by a condition called as cutoff voltage. Okay, so this cutoff voltage in the magnetron tube is very important, right? So what we do is further we will derive one derivation in which we will establish this particular condition at what particular magnetic field or at what particular value of electric field the process of velocity modulation begins inside the magnetron tube. This particular condition we call it as a cutoff condition of the voltage, and this condition was originally observed by a scientist known as a Hull. So that's why the name of this cutoff voltage condition, we call it as a Hull cutoff voltage for the magnetron. So over here. Okay, so what is Hull cutoff voltage condition of the magnetron tube? This condition tells us about what specific value of either magnetic field or electric field we need to maintain so that a process of velocity modulation begins in the tube, right? So the equation of the electron motion, so we will be having a short derivation in order to find out that particular condition of cutoff voltage. Please again remember over here that we can establish this condition of cutoff voltage either in the form of an electric field or in the form of a magnetic field. And both these conditions are known popularly as expression for Hull cutoff voltage in the magnetron tube, right? So let us go through this particular derivation. The equation of the electron motion in the magnetron, it is governed by two perpendicular forces of field. Okay, so this is very important. We have two perpendicular fields, electric field and magnetic field. The electron motion in the cylindrical coordinate system, as we have the shape of this particular magnetron tube in the form of a cylinder, we will take or make use of cylindrical coordinate system for analysis purpose. So for cylindrical coordinate system, we will take r phi z as a coordinate system. Okay, so here equation number 1, this particular equation, it denotes the equation of the motion of the electron when it is simultaneously acted upon by the electric field and magnetic field, which are perpendicular oriented to each other. So equation number 1 gives us the motion of the electron when it is being acted upon by a perpendicular electric and magnetic field. Okay, so here ER is a radially directed electric field. ER is the component which is radially directed electric field, because the electric field is existing between the cathode and anode, and this we call it as a radial field. And BZ is the magnetic field, which normally is oriented in a perpendicular direction. Okay, so for example, in between anode and cathode we have the electric field and it is oriented radially, while the magnetic field is perpendicular to it and it is denoted by BZ. Okay, so what we do is we can rewrite the equation number 1 in this particular form by separating the derivatives. Okay, so d by dt of dr by dt, so r we take as it is, and d phi by dt we'll write out separately in this way. On the right hand side we write the thing as it is, and let us call this an equation number 2. Okay, so from the left hand side of equation number 2, what we do is we will take out a common term d by dt outside, and inside bracket we will get the remaining term. The right hand side will remain as it is, and then what we do is we will multiply by 1 by r on the right hand side. Okay, multiply and divide by 1 by r on the left hand side. So here in this particular equation, what we are doing is we are multiplying and dividing by small letter r on the left hand side. Okay, so we can write in this way then. Okay, so we'll get the above equation, and what we do is we now consider only the phi terms over here on the both sides. So from the above equation, if you only consider the phi related terms on the both side, we can rewrite the equation in this particular way. Okay, and then simplifying this equation, we will get this particular equation, which is rewritten in terms of a phi. Now what we do is we multiply this particular equation by 1 by phi on the both side. Okay, so when we multiply by 1 by phi, see over here we have multiplied by 1 by phi over and 1 by phi over here. Okay, and then what we do is we change the order of the differentiation on the right hand side. On the right hand side here we have the differentiating with respect to t. Okay, differentiation with respect to t. So here changing the order of differentiation on the right hand side from r to phi. Okay, so what we do is this phi we will take it out in the place of r, and we are going to place r in the place of a phi over here in this way. So this is, we are changing the order of differentiation, removing phi and placing r in the place of a phi. So here the d phi by dt, this particular term, we can write it as a dr by dt over here by changing the order of differentiation. Okay, so what we get after rearranging the term, you will get equation number 3. Okay, and then rearranging the term on the left hand side, finally we will get equation number 4. Okay, so here we consider the product E beta z by m, E beta z by m on the right hand side. Let us call this as a WC. Okay, and this WC stands for cyclotron angular velocity of electron. So omega is nothing but an angular velocity, and omega c is equal to E beta z divided by m. This particular quantity stands for cyclotron motion. Okay, so what is the cyclotron motion actually? Cyclotron motion is, let us say this is a particular cathode from where the electrons are getting emitted, right? So when the electrons are getting emitted, their path will get bent in this way. So this is an electron. So the electron will again start coming towards the cathode, but we'll adjust the magnetic and electric field such that the electron, when it comes near to the cathode, it will again get repelled. Okay, so the electron will continuously move between the interaction region between cathode and the surrounding anode in this way. This is the anode, and this motion of the electron in between anode and cathode, okay, so this motion we call it as a cyclotron motion, and the frequency with which this motion of the electron is taking place, we call it as a cyclotron angular velocity. Okay, so then what we do is E bz by m r dr by dt, we can rewrite this equation as in this particular form. Okay, so the equation number 4 can be rewritten in this particular form: d by dt of r square d phi by dt E by m bz r dr by dt is equal to 1 by 2. So this particular term we replace with omega c dr square by dt, with which we get equation number 5. Now what we do is we will integrate equation number 5 on the both side, so that the d by dt terms on the both side will cancel out, and we get r square d phi by dt is equal to, on the right hand side, 1 by 2 omega c r square, d by dt will get cancel out, and we will get constant of this particular integration. Now this is given by equation number 6. Now here a geometry of cathode and anode is shown over here. Okay, so the blue color circle indicates the cathode whose radius is small a, while the red color circle, it indicates the splitted anode whose radius is b. The relationship between the radius of cathode and radius of anode is such that the radius of anode is greater than radius of cathode, right? So radius of cathode is denoted by small a. Okay, so at r in equation number 6, okay, so place r is equal to a, that is, in equation number 6, if you substitute, the radius is equal to the radius of cathode. So at that time the d phi by dt terms is going to become 0. Okay, so therefore equation 6 becomes 0 is equal to 1 by 2 omega c. We replace r with a in order to evaluate the constant, and we get the constant as given by equation number 7. Now what we do, once we got this constant, we will replace this value of a constant in equation 6, and we get r square d phi by dt is equal to this particular equation, right? And then we write this equation in terms of d phi by dt, which is equal to 1 by 2 omega c into bracket 1 minus a square upon r square, right? Next we will see what is the kinetic energy of an electron. The kinetic energy of an electron, from the empirical equation we know that EV is equal to half mv square, where small v is a velocity. Now this velocity can be directed into two directions. One is a radial direction and another is an angular direction. Okay, and this can be written as a 2ev by m, that is nothing but the DC potential, right? So v square is equal to vr square plus v phi square. So vr square can be written as dr by dt whole square, and the velocity in the phi direction can be written as r d phi by dt whole square. Okay, so at a distance b, okay, so what is b? B is the distance between anode and the cathode edge, right? At put r is equal to b, what we get, v is equal to v0, that is the electric field, and dr by dt we are going to get 0. Okay, So equation 8 becomes d phi by dt is equal to 1 by 2 omega c into bracket 1 minus a square, and r we replace with b square at r is equal to b. Okay, and from equation number 9 we can substitute these values. So the velocity v square is equal to vr square plus v phi square, dr by dt square r d phi by dt square is equal to 2 ev by m, it is written as it is. And at r is equal to b, dr by dt is equal to 0 and v is equal to 0. When we substitute all this, what we get? We get here v replaced with v0, vr is dr by dt and it will become 0. Okay, and v phi we get r d phi by dt. Now that r is replaced with b, so that we will get b over here and on the right hand side equal. Okay, so the velocity we will get finally given by this particular equation, b square into d phi by dt whole square is equal to 2ev0 by m. Okay, so this is given in equation number 11. So b square, where b is the spacing between the cathode and the edge of the anode. Okay, so 2ev0 by m. Now what we do is we will substitute equation number 10 d phi by dt term. Okay, so in equation number 10, if you recall, we have this d phi by dt. Now what we do is we substitute this value of d phi by dt in equation number 1. Okay, so what we get, b square d phi by dt is 1 upon 2 omega c, this term on the right hand side, 2ev0 by m. Let us call this an equation number 12. Okay, now we substitute what is the angular cyclotron frequency. We know that this is the angular cyclotron frequency, right? Now this cyclotron frequency is EBZ by m. Now we substitute this value and we will simplify further, and when we simplify this we can write the equation in terms of magnetic field Bz. So Bz is a magnetic field. We can rewrite this equation arranged in terms of a magnetic field, and this magnetic field equation, whatever we get, we call it as a cutoff condition of the magnetic field. So equation number 13 is very important and it tells us the significance of cutoff magnetic voltage for the operation of magnetron tube. Okay, so what it tells, hence for the provided value of electric field. Now here the electric field is V0, please remember in this equation. Okay, so the electric field is V0. Here I will write V0 is electric field, right? And beta Z is a magnetic field which is oriented perpendicularly, right? So hence for the provided value of electric field, that means if we maintain fixed electric field and if we vary the magnetic field, that means in this particular equation number 13, if we keep the electric field constant and if we vary the magnetic field, okay, so how we can vary the magnetic field? We can make use of solenoid instead of making a use of permanent magnet, and thus we can change the magnetic field. So by changing the magnetic field such that the Bz, whatever value that we have got over here, this is the value of magnetic field. So what we do is we will change this magnetic field and we will slightly increase the magnetic field with the value which is over this particular equation. So what we do is when we keep the magnetic field Bz such that it is greater than cutoff voltage, so this particular quantity indicates cutoff magnetic voltage. So we will adjust the applied magnetic field such that it will be slightly greater than this value. Then the electrons will never reach to the anode, okay, and these electrons will remain continuously oscillating between the cathode and anode region, and this will give us a sustained oscillation with a velocity modulation process. Okay, and this particular condition at which this velocity modulation thing will happen by varying the magnetic field, we call it as a Hull cutoff voltage for the magnetic condition, right? So similarly, the Hull cutoff voltage for the electric field, by keeping the magnetic field constant, we can also vary the electric field, and this is the more better option in comparison to the first case. We can easily vary the electric field by maintaining constant magnetic field. So the reverse is also true. So instead of making the magnetic field to vary, what we do is we will start varying the electric field and we will maintain the magnetic field fixed. So in that particular way, we also get another equation for the electric field, and that is also specified as a cutoff condition. So the another cutoff condition, when we vary the electric field by maintaining constant magnetic field, is given by this particular equation. What we are going to do is we are going to vary the electric field while we maintain minimum cutoff voltage condition for the magnetic field. Therefore, if the applied DC voltage, if we maintain the DC voltage V0, which is lesser than the value given in equation number 4, oppositely, right? So there are two simultaneous conditions. Either you can vary the magnetic field by maintaining the electric field constant. In that particular case, the magnetic field should be slightly over to this cutoff condition. On the other hand, if we want to keep the magnetic field fixed and want to vary the electric field, that also can be done. So in that particular case, the electric field should be less than the value given by equation number 14. So at that time, the same condition will appear and the velocity modulation process will take place, and equation number 13 and equation number 14 are popularly known as Hull cutoff voltage condition for generating sustained oscillation inside a magnetron circuit, right? Now let us go ahead and see whatever we discussed, that pi mode operation. Now let us elaborate what do we mean by pi mode operation. Okay, so actually the phase shift between the two adjacent cavities, so we saw in earlier diagram that the anode is constructed in the form of multiple cavities, right? So normally these cavities are employed as even number of cavities, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, so here 8 9 10 11 and 12. So 12 cavities means we normally employ even number of cavities, and these cavities are alternatively short circuited by using two thick metallic strips. That process we call it as a strapping, and this strapping is done in order to ensure that our magnetron is always going to operate in the pi mode. Now what is that pi mode? We are going to elaborate it now. Okay, so here the phase shift between any two adjacent cavities is given by this particular equation. So the phase shift between any two adjacent cavity during the operation of magnetron is given by phi n is equal to 2 pi m by n. Okay, so where capital N is the number of cavities which are present in the anode. So for example, in above case we saw there are 12 cavities, so n will become 12, right? So if we are making use of a 12 cavities, and if we place m is equal to n by 2, so here for 12 number of anode cavities, m will be n by 2, so n by 2 means 12 divided by 2, so it will be 6. Okay, so the phase shift between the adjacent cavities is given by 2 pi n, 2 pi multiplied by 12 multiplied by n, so what it will give? 6 into 2, it is a 4 pi. Okay, so it is a multiple of pi, so that means it is a pi mode operation. Okay, so phi n indicates that the adjacent phase between any two cavities, if it is maintained equal to integer multiple of pi, we call this mode of the operation of the magnetron tube as a pi mode operation. Okay, so in order to maintain sustained oscillation, the total phase shift around the anode must be 2n times pi, where n is going to be an integer and m is the mode of the oscillation. So here small m, which we normally take n by 2, we call it as a mode of oscillation. Okay, so for example, if we have say total number of cavities with which the anode is constructed, say 8 cavities. So in that particular case, we have the equation 2 pi m by n. So here n is indicating number of cavities, it is 8. So what we get, pi m by 4. Okay. So if I take m is equal to 4, if I take m is equal to 4, so 4 by 4, the phase shift will be pi. Okay. So here if I keep m is equal to 4, I will get the adjacent phase shift between the cavity is equal to pi, and this particular potential is called as a Hartree potential condition. Okay, and this Hartree potential condition is specified by equation number 15. Okay, so Hartree potential is given by 2 pi fb by n small b square minus a square, where f is the frequency of oscillation in hertz, where b is the cathode to edge of the anode distance, and a is the radius of cathode, and n is the total number of cavity resonators. Okay, so here in order to generate a particular specific frequency, Hartree condition of the magnetron is evaluated. So on the right hand side, we find the constants are capital N, capital B, small b and small a. All these conditions, all these knowns parameters are known. So in order to generate, so equation number 15 can be rewritten in terms of the oscillation frequency of a magnetron. So here we can rearrange the term. So Hartree voltage multiplied by n. Okay, so this we can write is equal to 2 pi fb into bracket b square minus a square. Okay, so therefore frequency f we call it as a frequency of operation, frequency of magnetron operation. So how it is given then? So this can be written as frequency of magnetron operation. This can be rearranged in terms of Hartree voltage VHT, okay, multiplied by n. We can divide it by 2 pi b square minus a square. Okay, so here in the denominator all things are known. N is the number of cavities with which the anode is formed, and here VHT is a Hartree condition. Okay, so if we know the operating frequency of the magnetron, let us say if you want to operate the magnetron at 10 gigahertz, so the frequency is known. So from that we can calculate the Hartree condition at which the oscillation will take place. Okay, so this is in brief, we have discussed what do we mean by pi mode operation. Pi mode operation will always ensure that the phase shift between the adjacent cavities is going to be always an amount of phi for the given number of total cavities, right? And we saw the two analogous condition to achieve the process of velocity modulation in the magnetron tube, and these two conditions can be either implemented by keeping magnetic fixed voltage and by varying the electric field, or we can keep the electric field fixed and we can make the magnetic field to vary in order to provide us a condition of velocity modulation process inside a magnetron tube. And those two conditions we discussed in equation number 13 and 14, and these are known as cutoff condition for either electric field or for magnetic field in order to generate sustained oscillation in magnetron tube. Okay, so I hope you understood this particular operation and the derivation with which we derived successfully the two conditions on which the velocity modulation of the electron is going to take place in the magnetron. We saw the application, working principle, construction, Hartree condition, and the condition to exist the velocity modulation process by understanding the Hull cutoff voltage equation in terms of electric and also in terms of magnetic field. Okay, and this completes the operation, construction, working principle of magnetron tube. where we studied this is the first tube which makes use of crossed perpendicularly oriented electric field and magnetic field for its operation. And essentially, this magnetron cylindrical tube is utilized as a source of microwave oscillator or a microwave generator source in high frequency applications. So thank you very much. We'll stop over here.